Listen to me. Listen to me. Come closer. Come closer. Listen to me. Do not come to Washington, D.C. without a job. You've been warned. Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. My name is Rogan, better known as this Bahamian Gyal, your ultimate guide to the Bahamas and Washington, D.C. What's poppin'? So let me first say that this is not going to be everyone's scenario. I hate that I have to say this. I hate that I have to qualify these things because obviously it's not going to be everyone's scenario. There are people who come to DC and they just pop. They have a great network or they know somebody, they get in the door, they get their job and they're happy and they're like, I didn't have any problem getting a job in Washington, D.C. What is this Bahamian gal talking about? I'm telling you, that is not the norm. Most people, when they come here, are on a prolonged, protracted quest to find suitable employment. Now, what do I mean by suitable? I don't mean you can't get any job. You can get any job. But for the job that you want that's going to fund your lifestyle the way that you want, that's going to take some time. So I wanted to have this honest conversation because this is one of the things that, you know, I feel like people just don't fully understand when they are looking to relocate somewhere. It's almost as if the job is like an afterthought. Now, let me share my story real quick. Storytime. When I moved to the area, or it happened so quickly, to be honest with you, when I had to relocate, and I didn't have a job lined up. I was still, and I always say this, I was still eating off of the Bahamas, meaning I was still doing a lot of work with clients back home. I was still freelance writing. It was so much going on that I wasn't in a rush to like work over here, right? And then the pandemic hit, and luckily I still had those clients that I was working for and doing that work. So I was still feasting off of the Bahamas. And when it became time for me to say, okay, now it's time for me to sort of plant my flag here in DC, it was not an easy quest at all. It was so hard. And of course, this again was during the pandemic when people were just laying people off left, right, and center. So luckily, because my career was in journalism, the first places I started reaching out to were like radio stations and that sort of thing. And I got interviews from several places. I mean, like really well-known places. And I was like, oh, this was easy. Okay, this was easy. And then it was like, yeah, due to this pandemic, we don't know what we're going to do right now. And we might have to put a freeze on hiring. So just hang tight. And, you know, once this thing kind of blows over, we'll get back to you. Right? And I know other people who have been trying to get in the federal government, and it has not been an easy thing. So please prepare for that when you are relocating to the DC area. Don't just come in here and like start looking at places to live. These places are expensive here, so you're going to definitely need some money. And the way to get the money is to have a really, really solid job that is paying some really good benefits, because the cost of living in this DMV area is really high. So my advice to anybody who is thinking about moving here is to first like really do like an extensive search while you're in wherever you're from, Arkansas, Idaho, Jamaica, Bahamas, the Bahamas, Cayman Islands, London, wherever you are. Honestly, unless you have a network where someone could just say, oh, I got a job lined up for you. Let's just go. Just give me the stuff and I'm going to put it through for you. Just know that it's going to take some time. And this is not unique to people who are from the Caribbean. This is not unique to people who are from Africa, the continent of Africa. There are people who are European who say all the time, like, it took me 3, 4, 5 years to get a really good job in DC, or I was trying to get something in Maryland, It is hard. It is hard. Don't come here with the expectation that it's just going to pop. So let me just start off with, let me see what time it is, because I have a dental appointment today, y'all. I got to make this quick. So one of the things that I get a lot is, why is it so hard to get a job in DC? Why is it so hard? Like, I've had men and women reach out like, this is crazy. Like, I thought it would have been a little easier. I'm like, why? Why did you think it was going to be easy? DC is a mecca for talented people. Highly educated people live here, work here. You have a lot of Ivy League grads that you're competing against. You have people who have worked in the federal government for a great chunk of time. You have people who have been in the army, who've been in the Navy or who've been in the Air Force, which like I feel like they're top tier in the Air Force. And they have qualifications that you just might not have. And so you're going up against these folks. And then again, DC is a networking town. So if you're not somebody who is actively networking, or, you have political ties, or, you come from a family with a very significant last name, it could be really tough. And I know that it's like that in so many different states, in so many different countries, you have that. But I mean, like I've always said that it's like it's on steroids here. So you're competing with the creme de la creme, and that makes it hard to stand out. And I'm not discrediting anyone's educational background, because you have to remember that you're competing against people who have like degrees from Harvard and Yale and Princeton and Stanford. And let me quote a former colleague of mine. She said, just because you went somewhere to get an education doesn't mean you're educated, right? So that person may not necessarily be as smart as you who went to University of Idaho. But on paper, someone sees Harvard. On paper, someone sees Princeton. On paper, someone sees Stanford, and it's just a different conversation, right? Like when I were living in Nassau, if I were thinking about getting a job immediately, I would have started looking from I was in Nassau for sure. I was just very fortunate, very blessed to be in the predicament that I was in. But definitely, I would say get your search on and don't stop searching, and just go through the whole process. And if they're going to interview you, let them interview you over Skype or Zoom or whatever. And then, if you have to fly out for the interview, then do that and come back, go back home, and then just make sure you're sorted out before you make the move here. At least I came with my money. I came with substantial amount of savings and money. So I was like, I had time to kind of like chill out a bit. You know what I mean? Anyway, so just make sure you are applying from wherever you are before you come here. You don't want to come here and ain't got no job. Trust me. I would also say one of the things people need to know when they're looking for a job, because some of you will not heed this advice and you will just come here expecting a job to pop off, and it won't. This is my advice to you. Don't be afraid to pivot temporarily. Don't be afraid to decide to go into a different arena, a different career temporarily until you get where you need to be. You just have to be very focused and have that mindset that this isn't where I want to be. This isn't where I want to stay. And I'm going to continue looking. So this is why a lot of people come here with degrees. They end up working in restaurants, they end up working as teachers, they end up working in retail, they end up working so many different places as admins. There's no shame in that. There's no shame in that at all. You have to do what you have to do to pay your bills, because just sitting at home applying and you ain't making I don't know what home you're going to be in unless you're living with somebody, because you ain't going to be able to pay your bills. So definitely don't be afraid to pivot, look into other jobs. And while you're on that job making money, and if it offers benefits, take it, then, just go full throttle searching. I would also advise that it's not an everyday thing. You're pounding the pavement every day. No, I know some people say you just got to keep going. You can get easily discouraged and frustrated if you keep going, and then you keep getting rejections. So, kind of like take your time, not too much time now, but, apply to these things and make sure you're applying. And this is the best advice that a friend of mine gave. One of my Jamaican friends was like, don't just apply to anything just to apply, right? Now, this does not contradict my saying, don't be afraid to pivot. It just means like, don't I'll pivot temporarily, so I'll just do anything. No, still try to do things that are within your expertise, things that would make you happy. Because at the end of the day, while you're waiting for the big job to come along, you want to be happy. You want to feel like, okay, I don't mind going into this place every day. So just don't apply to just any old thing. Still try to apply to things that will make you happy and give you a good, nice environment. But, pace yourself. If you've gotten 3 rejection letters in the last month or last 2 months, just kind of like, re-strategize. You might have to redo your resume. You might have to let somebody who is a really strong resume creator look at your resume. You might have to hire a company or somebody to do that for you. But don't beat yourself up because some job decided not to hire you. I recently spoke to an HR manager who said, let me tell you something. And it's so sad. And this is exactly what she said. She said, sometimes at our company, we put ads out on the job boards and we already know the person internally or externally who we want to put in the role. But we have to, for legal purposes, we have to, advertise. And it's so sad because people who are qualified are probably applying and getting rejected when they didn't have a chance in the beginning. They didn't have a chance to begin with. So don't look at it like your education is invaluable or you're not valuable. Your experience means nothing. Just know that some companies have the way that they do business, and that has nothing to do with you. So just keep applying. There ain't just that one job in the world. You could continue to apply, and it might warrant moving out of state. It might warrant a lot of things, but just try not to get discouraged in the journey to finding the right job, and don't be afraid to pivot temporarily. And I keep saying temporarily because if that's not what you want to do not get comfortable, do not get complacent, and just stay there, because it's very, very easy to get complacent. You have to kind of you have to ask God to grieve you so that you don't get complacent on the job. Be like, no, there's better for me out there. There's more for me out there. Don't let me get complacent. So don't get complacent when you pivot, but be willing to pivot, because you know why? You got bills to pay. It is going to take time for you to get a job. You're going to have to be really patient with yourself. What is time? I don't know. Time could be weeks. It could be months. It could be years. Many of the people who I've met who live in Virginia and DC in particular talk about being in the job search for 3 years, 4 years. And at first, when I heard that, I was like, that's impossible. Like, what the hell? Where are you applying? There's no way you could be taking that long. Oh, it's so true. I hear it over and over again from people who are highly qualified with master's degrees, specialized degrees. And it's like, things just don't pop that easily. If it happens in a short amount of time, kudos to you. You did a great job. The power of Christ compels you to get a job, whatever. I don't know. I'm happy for you. But that's not always the reality. It certainly wasn't the reality for me. Okay. And I was one of those people who had to pivot. You know what I mean? So definitely keep that in mind. So if some of you out there are looking to work for the federal government, and I need to find out the stats and put them in this video, the number of residents in DC who work for the federal government, it is plentiful. That's why when the government, when workers were furloughed, it was like, ugh. People were suffering out here because so many of them work for the government. But if you have aspirations to work for the federal government and you are on usajobs.com, for example, you want to make sure that your resume is crafted properly so that the system is picking up on those keywords and picking up on your resume. One of the books I would definitely recommend, and I bought this book just as I don't have any plans to work for the federal government. But I know so many people who do, and it's so crazy. I like to read. I'm a reader. So I wanted to just to see what everybody is always talking about, because they always are, saying you have to be so specific about how you craft your resume. So I was reading through this book. I bought this like 2 days ago, and I'm already done reading it. And this is not a sponsored post. I don't know this person. The author is Catherine Troutman, and I'm going to show you this book. This is 7th edition. And I would highly listen. Like I said, I have no interest in working for the federal government. I don't know if that's going to change, right? But this book is so damned good. And I love the way that Catherine formats everything. It's like, as I'm reading through it, I'm like, I see why this person, got hired or why their resume was selected. You think you know how to write a resume. This book really is a must read. So how much did I pay for this? $16, $15.95. So yeah, I would definitely recommend purchasing this book, because it gives real world examples of what to do and what not to do. So for those of you who want to move here to DC, Maryland, Virginia, and you want to work for the federal government, I would definitely get that book. I got this from Barnes & Noble 2 days ago, Federal Resume Guidebook. Again, not a sponsored post. I don't know this Gyal, but she sure knows what she's doing. So I would definitely recommend that. And that's why these people, when they get their little federal government job or they get their job in private sector, child, they ain't letting that go. Because they know what it's like to have to hustle to find a job. Okay, so now that all that's been said, let me just do a quick recap. Number 1, do not come to this city without a job. Please line your job up. Be ready to go. Your onboarding is done. You are ready to just kind of move into your house or your apartment, wherever you have your job and you're ready to go. Understand that you are going to have a lot of competition if you come here without a job. Number 3, don't be afraid to pivot temporarily. Don't be afraid to take on side jobs to make it. This is just, a bump in the road. It's just a part of your journey to getting to where you want to get. So don't feel any way about that. Know that it's going to take time to find this job. Please be patient and gentle with yourself during this process. Please, I think that's probably the most important thing that I could say here today. If you are interested in knowing how people go about looking for jobs, and I'm going to have to see an overwhelming number of you all drop comments down below, because making content for YouTube is not easy. It's very time consuming. And at the end of the day, I'm not super duper focused on numbers, but I do want to know that the content that I'm creating is something that people want to see. I think the only exception that I have, where I'm I don't care if only one person sees it, is if I'm talking about one of my personal videos, because I always feel like those personal videos are the videos that, I feel compelled to do those ones because I feel like they're meant for not just for me to express myself, but for somebody out there. But videos like this that are informative, educational, I need to see that there is an appetite for the information before I even take the time to create those videos. So I would need to see a lot of people down below saying, listen, I want to move to DC and I want to start looking for jobs. Where do I need to look? What do I need to be doing? Who do I need to drop it down below? Drop it down below. Drop it down below. Then I'll do a video on that. So just let me know. All right. Thank you so much for watching. I love you guys. Don't forget to follow me on Facebook at This Bahamian Gyal, on Instagram at This Bahamian Gyal, on my website at www.thisbahamiangyal.com. Where else am I? I'm big on TikTok. I ain't gonna lie. So I don't even know if I should mention that, but if you do want to go and, I'm not going to mention it because I'm big on TikTok. My platforms are mostly Instagram and YouTube. Those are my favorites. And don't forget to subscribe to my channel. I'm on the road to 10,000. Please subscribe. And I'll see you guys next week, Wednesday at 1 o'clock. Thank you so much.